Hi everybody, in this video we will answer problems related to topic 7, which is the application of thermodynamics to flow processes. Let's begin with example 1. What are the temperature and entropy changes that result when an ideal gas undergoes a throttling process? Okay, as usual, we begin by drawing the given in the problem. Let's try to draw a throttle valve given. So this is a symbol for throttle valve. The inlet pressure is 200 kilopascal and the outlet pressure is 100 kilopascals. And then what is required are the changes in temperature and entropy, so delta T and delta S. For the solution, we begin with the balance for throttling process. So if you will remember, for throttling process, we derived the resulting energy balance last meeting. Let me move to that slide. Okay, hold on. For throttling, the energy balance simplifies to delta H equal to 0. So that means it's an isentropic or constant enthalpy process. Now, for an ideal gas, which wherein enthalpy only depends on the temperature, and when enthalpy is 0, that means the delta T has to be 0. So let's write that in our whiteboard. Okay, for an ideal gas, so given this is an ideal gas undergoing that. So for Ig delta undergoing the throttling process, delta H equal to 0, and for an ideal gas, delta H is Cp delta T equal to 0, so that means delta T is 0. Okay, so there's no temperature change during the throttling process of an ideal gas. Now for entropy of an ideal gas, if you will remember, this is our equation for the entropy of an ideal gas. Delta S equal to Cp dt over T integrated from temperature 1 to temperature 2 minus R ln P2 over P1. Okay, so this is R. Now, since dt is 0, okay, this is Cp dt, integral of Cp dt is 0, um, we are left with negative RL and P2 over P1. Okay. Now, we know the initial and final temperature. It is given in the problem. So here are the temperatures. We can substitute back into the equation. We can use R equal to 8.04 joules per mole. Oops, wait. Joules per mole Kelvin. And then uh, multiplied by ln P2 is 100, P1 is 200. What you will get there is a positive entropy, which is expected, 5.76 joules per mole Kelvin. So this is the answer. Oops. Okay. And if we go back to our lecture, um, look at this statement, the process is inherently irreversible. So our calculation agrees with uh, the value, which is a positive entropy, agrees with the concept with the lecture. Okay, for throttling process. Okay. Now we move on to the next problem. Oops. Oops. Like, for the next problem, example 2, still under throttling process, propane gas at 20 bars and 400 Kelvin is throttled in a steady state flow process to 1 bar. Estimate the final temperature of the propane and its entropy change. Properties of propane can be found from suitable generalized correlations. So let's draw the problem given a throttling process. So this is not an ideal gas since the problem did not mention that this is propane can behave as an ideal gas. And 20 bars, okay, at the 1 bar we can assume, but for 20 bars, we're not sure. It's a high pressure, so it's not safe. And the problem also mentioned that um propane can be properties of propane can be found from suitable generalized correlation, which we expect that propane at 20 bars acts like a real gas. But for 1 bar, it might be safe to assume. So let's see. Um, so the pressure at the inlet is 20 bars and the temperature is 400 Kelvin. And then at the exit, it is 1 bar. We don't know. That's the problem. We don't know the final temperature, and that is the requirement in this problem. Okay, it's required T2 and delta S. Okay, for the solution, uh, so, so what equation has, or what equation can we use to solve for T2? By the way, we can't solve delta S unless we know T2. So we first solve for T2. Okay. For a real gas, let me go back to the lecture. Actually, it's the previous lecture, not that, this one. Okay, it's the previous lecture. We go back to the equation uh, for delta H. This one. We first use or solve for delta H. Okay, using this equation. Okay, we use this equation. The problem, if we use this equation, we don't know T2, but we can use the mean heat capacity to iterate and find T2. So, this topic was not discussed last time in under heat effects, but let me show you from the book what I mean. Okay, so we can use, so from the evaluation of the sensible heat, as a where CP is a function of T, okay, so it's no problem if we're just operating in one temperature. We can use the CP equation, this one, right? But the problem is we're operating between two temperatures, and CP is a function of temperature. That's why we have to consider both temperatures. Now, if one of the temperatures is not given, it would be a problem. Okay, that would be a problem because it's difficult to solve. T is the bounds of the integral. So in the book, we can use the mean heat capacity. So the mean heat capacity was derived, and this is the equation for it. And therefore, uh, simplifying, okay, we can we can use this equation 4.11. Okay, not sure if you can use this equation to iterate for T2 with 4.11. And what else? Okay. So this is different. Okay, this is different from the mean heat capacity. So this is the mean heat capacity for enthalpy calculation, and this is different from the mean heat capacity for entropy calculation. So let me find that in the book. Okay, there. Let me just use the MCPS. This one, okay? So this is the mean heat capacity for entropy calculation. Okay, and you can see the derivation or the derived equation is quite different from the mean heat capacity for enthalpy calculation. So notice that the subscript here is S, whereas in the equation that I showed you earlier, the subscript is for H. And this equation, we discussed this last time in this lecture. Okay, where is it? This one. Okay, we discussed it. And I also mentioned that this is useful if one of the temperature one of the temperatures is unknown, or where the final temperature is unknown. So why is it different? Um, mm, there's a reason. Okay, this is the reason. The subscript S denotes a mean value specific to entropy calculation. Comparison of this mean value with the mean value specific to enthalpy calculation, which is what I showed you earlier, shows the two means to be quite different. Okay, they will result to a different means. This is inevitable because they are defined for the purpose of evaluating entirely different integrals. Okay, so that's the reason why they're different. So we use CP, mean heat capacity S for, or MCPS for entropy calculation, and MCPH for enthalpy calculation. So let me go back to the problem. Okay, so we write our working equation. What's the working equation? Delta H equal to negative H1 residual. Okay, so we're dealing with a real gas. Now, this should be CPDT. Okay, but since temperature 2 is not known, we use the mean heat capacity. Okay, CPIG. So this is the symbol for that, or CPH for short. CP. But this is the complete symbol with the bracket, or what you call that. Um, then this is multiplied by T2 minus T1. Okay, that doesn't look like T1. And then we add residual 2. So again, uh, why is this our equation? So going back to the previous lecture. Oh, hold on. Okay, so this is we made a hypothetical path from the real gas to ideal gas. We allowed the reaction, or rather the process, to happen as an ideal gas. Okay, so that's why we have negative H1R and positive H2R because of our hypothetical path. And the process happens as an ideal gas. Okay, so that's why CP delta T is with the label IG. Okay, so these are residual. Okay, now for um we can, for simplicity, at 1 bar we can assume that propane behaves as an ideal gas. So at Okay. At 1 bar, assume ideal gas. If that's the case, H2R, which is for state 2, can be assumed to be 0. So it's the hypothetical path becomes like this. So let's draw the hypothetical path here. No, hold on. Let me move this. So let's draw the hypothetical path here. Hypothetical path P1. So this is for real, and then this is ideal, and this is negative H1R. So since we can assume this is to be ideal gas, okay. So this is CP dt, T2 minus T1. Okay. This is negative H1R. We have no H2R. Okay. Now, what's next? Uh, from the book, okay, we can simplify since this is 0. Okay, this is 0. Isolating T2 on one side of the equation would give you, also by the way, delta H is 0 for a throttling process. Okay? Throttling process. So isolating T2 on one side of the equation, because we can now solve for T2 on one side of the equation. What do we get? It's simply H1R over the mean heat capacity H. Okay, this is a bracket. Okay, this is IG. Let me fix that. Mean heat capacity plus T1. Okay, so this is what we will use for iteration. Okay, we use it for iteration. But first, before we can do that, let's evaluate H1R. So H1R, from generalized correlations, we can, okay, first evaluate for the critical temperatures. I mean the reduced temperature and pressure. So for propane from appendix B or A, TC or critical temperature of propane is 369.8 Kelvin and PC is 42.48 bars. Eccentric factor is 0.152. So you calculate for the reduced temperature and pressure at TR1, state 1. So that's 400 over 369. That would give you 1.082. And PR1, that is 20 divided by 42.48, that is 0.471. Now, the easiest, one of the easiest calculation is using the second virial coefficient, the generalized correlation based on the second virial coefficient. And another justification on why we can use that correlation is because of figure 3.13. So let's find figure 3.13. Where are you? Yeah, this one. So what is our TR? It's 1.02. So this is that line. And what is our PR? It's 0.471. So it's here. We are within the region enclosed by the dash curve, which means the virial coefficient is a good correlation is a good estimation of the Lee-Kessler correlation, which is Lee-Kessler is quite accurate. Okay. All right. Let's go back to that. Now, no, I want to show you which equations you'll be using. So, this where, yeah, that one. So where is it? Okay, so you will use this one to calculate for each residual. Now, I will leave that details up to you. Okay, but I'm going to show a way that you can check your answer. If it's a homework, okay, you can download, you can go to this site. Okay, I will give you the link. Let me check if it's available. You can download the calculators. Oops. Anyway, you have to I think log in and then you can download the calculators. Okay, can you see it? From the site. That link is from Smith and Vaness. So these are Excel files that with built-in formula. So one of the Excel files would be this one. Okay, this calculates the residual using the second virial coefficient correlation. So you just have to fill in the blue boxes. So that is the temperature for state for initial is 400, or the inlet rather, inlet. This is a flow process, so inlet not initial. 420, and then write the TC, and omega eccentric factor. You will get the value. It will automatically calculate. So this is useful for your homeworks. You can check it. So we write that, using second virial correlation. Each H1R over RTC is negative 0.452, and therefore H1R is negative 1390 joules per mole. Okay? So what's next? The next thing to do is, the next thing to do is go back to this equation, this one. So now you have a value for H1R. We need a value for CP, I mean heat capacity. So what do we do? Okay, so from the book, you can use the equation um for evaluating CP at a single temperature. But you can also use um the mean heat capacity equation and do iteration. But anyway, both are iteration. So let me first show you the solution from the book, then um I'll show you my iteration. So get the coefficients, heat capacity coefficients from Appendix C. So this is the value for A, and this is the value for B. So this is the uh, coefficients. And then this is the value for C. There's no value for D. Okay. So for the initial estimation of CP, so we can estimate that CP, mean heat capacity, you can use estimate, or rather estimate at T equal to 400, the inlet. Okay, so that's the initial estimate. So, but 400 is the inlet. What we're looking for is the outlet. So substitute 400 into this equation, substitute for 400 for T, what you will, and then multiply by R. Okay, what you will get, C, CPIGH initial is, so multiplied already by R, 94.07 joules per mole Kelvin. Okay? And then we use that into our equation, substitute here. Okay, substitute here and solve for T2. So we have H1, this one, and T1 400. So let's calculate. For initial iteration, H1R is negative 1390. We solved that. CP, mean heat capacity, is 94.07 plus 400, the initial temperature. What we will get for the final temperature is 385.2 Kelvin. So this is not yet final because it's different. Okay, it's different from your initial estimate. This one, 400, right? It's not. So the goal of the iteration is to make the value as close as possible to 400. Okay. I mean, sorry, as close as possible with the last temperature assumed. Okay, so with the last temperature assumed. So what you can do is take that into substitute that back into the equation, or you can take like what the book did for the next estimate. So this is the I plus 1. This is how uh the book did it. So the next estimate is the average of the two temperatures, so 392.6, and this is what you will substitute into this equation. Okay. So after that, you will get a value for CP. Okay, the next CP iteration using this as temperature, what you will get is 92.73 joules per mole Kelvin. Okay, so substituting this one into this equation, you will get the CP. You will do that again until the temperature, the temp, you will do that again, okay, and then substitute back. Substitute the CP back here, okay, so here, and you will get a temperature, and uh, as soon as the temperature from the last iteration is equal, so let's try to substitute. T2 is now 1390 over the new CP 92.73 plus 400. Let me um, open a calculator for that. Negative 1390 divided by 92.73 plus 400. 385. 385.01. And then substitute back again to here. You will get CP let me 385.01, 385.01, 91.35. Okay. Mm, actually, from on the book, this it stopped here. Okay, it stopped here. Uh, and the final CP is 92.73. Okay. Hmm. This is the final temperature. It assumed 385, and then the CP is that one. Okay. But let me now show you how I did it. So this is the iteration using Excel. Um, so this Excel is available to download from the website, from the book website, book publisher website. But I modified it a bit so that the equations become uh, a reference to cells, not the name of the field. So it's a similar approach. It's just that it's automated. So this is the CP. The what happens here is that the last temperature assumed, or the last temperature to calculated, that becomes your next T. Okay, so this T na T, and then um you use you calculate for the CP. So CP is just this value, MCPH, multiplied by 8.314. See? And then you drag the formula, and you stop when the temperature becomes constant. I wonder why the book did not continue. But anyway, that's already a good estimate. As you can see, doing that is near with the final answer. Okay, the 385, and then so it stopped here. It stopped here. Okay, so that means that's your answer. This is the final temperature. But the next problem asks for delta S. What is the formula for delta S? Okay, let me for delta S. This is Oh no, not that one. This is our formula, right? This one. So we copy that. Again, replacing this with CPS. Okay. Let me go back. Since the temperature final is unknown, we can't use the original equation. We replace it with CP IGS. Okay, so the mean heat capacity for entropy calculation, ln T2 over T1 minus R ln P2 over P1. But what is CP? S. So strictly speaking, you have to use the equation for solving CP of S, mean heat capacity for entropy calculation, this one. But since the temperature difference between the inlet and outlet is small, you can assume that CP IGS is near the value of CPIGH. Okay, so and this is equal to 385 or approximately equal to 3, no, not 385, 92.73 joules per mole Kelvin. But if you want a stricter approach, you can also can use the calculator. This is for MC, mean heat capacity for entropy calculation. Notice that the equation is different. You input the initial and an inlet and outlet temperature, and you solve for CPS. As you can see, it's near, right? It's near uh, the initial, this one, the one calculated for enthalpy. So anyway, we use this one and substituting into our equation here. So I'll leave it up to you to do the substitution. Mm, delta S. Ah, so this is not yet finished. We have to subtract S1R. So I forgot. Why? This is a real gas. So yeah. Uh, this one. Okay. This is the equation. Okay? I hope that's clear. So there's also a plus S2R that there, but since we assume that finals or in the outlet is can be assumed as an ideal gas, then that is zero. So but before we can substitute or solve for delta S, we need to know S1R. You can use the second virial coefficient to estimate that. Okay, so what equation will you be using? Hold on. This second virial coefficient is this one. I use that. Uh, but for me, I would use, since this is a homework, to check my answer, I would use this, which is part of the calculators available. So SRB. I just inputted the inlet pressure or the inlet because that's the real gas. Outlet is an ideal gas. And the properties of propane, we get the value for S1R. So let me write that. Uh, oops. So S1, there's a small difference with the book. So let's use the values from the book, but it's negligible, 0.2934. And then S1R is therefore negative 2.439 joules. And why am I joules per mole Kelvin? Okay. So now we have this value. We can now substitute delta S. Substitute the equation of delta S. That is 92.73. That's our mean heat capacity. Ln T2, 385 over 400 minus R Ln P2 over P1, negative 2.439. What you will get there is 23.8 joules per mole Kelvin. And that is your answer. Okay? So I hope that's clear. So this is an example wherein T2 is not known. For a throttling process, they use delta H0. You can use, and you have to, in the energy balance, even the entropy balance, you have to trace a hypothetical path. To get the temperature, use the energy balance, and then iterate, and then solve for delta S. Okay, so that ends example 2. Let's move to example 3. For example 3, a steam turbine with rated capacity of 56,400 kilowatts operates with a steam at inlet conditions of 8,600 kilopascal and 500 degrees Celsius, and discharges into a condenser at a pressure of 400 kilopascals, assuming a turbine efficiency of 0.75. Determine the state of the steam at discharge and the mass flow rate of the steam. In using two approaches. One is using the steam table and then using the Mollier diagram graphically. So we write the given. What's the symbol for turbines? That's the symbol. The inlet is smaller than the outlet. And work is produced. So work work shaft equal to 56,400 kilowatts. The inlet is 8,600 kilopascal. Temperature is 500 degrees Celsius. And the discharge, so this here we have a condenser, but it's not our concern. P2, the discharge is 10 kilopascal. And then the efficiency is 0.75. The requirement is state of the steam, and then mass flow rate. Okay, the first question. What is the state at the inlet? Even without guessing, you see the pressure, the temperature is very high. And when you check the steam table, you will see that this is a superheated steam. So with that, write the enthalpy and entropy. You will see later why entropy is useful. But The two properties, enthalpy and entropy, are important to us in the calculations for steady state devices or flow devices. So from the steam table, from ST, H1 or the enthalpy at the inlet is that kilojoules per kilogram. S1, entropy at the outlet, kilojoules per kilogram Kelvin. And then, so what's next? Ideally, the problem should also be giving the quality. Okay. T2, there's no problem. Well, it's not given, that what's the state, so we don't know if this is superheated or a saturated steam. But usually, at discharge, the turbine discharges wet steam or saturated steam. But anyway, we don't know yet. We have no clue. But we can assume an isentropic expansion. So that this process happens isentropically. So if that's the case, delta S is zero, and therefore S2 prime is equal to S1, where prime refers to the isentropic expansion. So S2 prime equal to S1 equal to 6.6858 kilojoules per kilogram. And if that's the case, then we can read from the steam table with S2 prime equal to that 58 and P2 equal to 10 kilopascal. Let me go to the steam table so I can show you. Or you find the 10 kilopascal. Then from the saturated side. So about here, what is the entropy? So entropy is the last column. For the entropy of a liquid is 0.6, while the entropy of a vapor is 8 point something, right? So that means to get an entropy of 6 point something, that should be a mixture of liquid and vapor. So we know now that isentropic expansion results to wet steam. Okay, for easier approach, you can look at so we can look here. This is exactly 10 kilopascals, and you write that. So from our equation or lever rule, the book calls it the lever rule. S2 prime is equal to S2 of a liquid. Okay, prime is different with the liquid. Uh, plus, I'm sorry, times 1 over x, times 1 minus x plus S2V times x. And this is equal, okay, S2 prime is 6.6858. S2L is 0.6. Let me go back to 0.6493. S2V is 8.1511 times x. Solving for x prime. So also, by the way, this is x prime. Let's correct x2 prime. So solving for x2 prime, the quantity during isentropic expansion is 0.8. Okay? So that's the amount of fraction of the vapor, mass fraction of the vapor. Oh, what is the reason why we need to do that? We want to calculate for H2 prime, the isentropic expansion enthalpy. And the equation is uh, similar plus H2V. So this H2V times X2 prime. Okay? So get the values H2L. Get it from here. Okay, from the steam table at 10 kilopascal, saturated liquid and vapor. Okay? So H2L is 191.81 minus X2 prime is 0.8047 plus H2V 2584.8 times 0.08. Oops, 0.8047. H2 prime will be equal to 2117 point 4 kilojoules per Kelvin. Okay. And therefore, our isentropic delta H, which means that um, isen delta H during isentropic expansion, this is equal to isentropic H2 minus H1, right? While our actual delta H is equal to H2, this is H2 actual minus H1. And how do we relate the two? We relate them by the efficiency. What is in the denominator? What is in the numerator? The smaller one. So this is a work-producing device. The actual delta H is in the numerator. Okay. And what is our goal? To solve for the actual H2. That is our goal. So this is H2 minus H1. This is H2 prime minus H1. We have H1, we have H1, we have H2 prime. We can solve for H2, isolate H2 on one side of the equation. Okay, so uh this is H2 H2 prime minus H1 times the efficiency, right? Okay, so substitute everything. What you will get for H2 is 2436 kilojoules per kilogram. But for the sake of knowing delta HS, want to calculate delta HS as well. That's H2 prime minus H1. So that is negative 955.6. I calculated this for comparison later on. And delta H actual is uh no. This is wrong. Delta H2 prime minus H1. What you will get is negative 1274.2 kilojoules per kilogram. Well, delta H actual is this value. So what do you notice? What do you notice? Um, delta H actual is smaller. So the actual is smaller than the isentropic. Okay, so after getting the actual H2, what's our goal? We want to know the state of the wet steam. So that's I mean the outlet state at the outlet. So we know that it's wet steam. We know it's a wet steam, but we need to know the quality. So we can use that H2 equal to 1 minus x2 actual. So this time this is the actual value x2. Okay, substitute everything. We know already H2. We know H2L, H2V from the steam table. X is the unknown. So solving for X, 2, X2 actual, or the non-isentropic quality, what you'll get is 0.9378. So what do you notice? It's larger than the fraction of the isentropic quality. Then what else? You can use X2 actual to get S2 actual. Okay, using the same equation, um, S2 actual is 7.6846 kilojoules per kilogram Kelvin. So these are the answers. Oops. Using the steam table. So it's also H2. That's the state. The next thing to solve is M. So how do we solve for M? Well, if we have delta H, so delta H is in kilojoules per kilogram, and work is in kilojoules per second, because that's watts, right? So therefore, M is work shaft over delta H. So this should be the work shaft, that is a rate. It's a rate. It's in kilowatts. So this is 56,000 or negative 56,400. Negative because it's work. This should be negative. Work produced by the system divided by delta H actual, which is this one, negative 55, negative 955. 0.6. So let me use the calculator. The value, mass flow rate. So this is kilojoules per second, and this is kilojoules per kilogram. You will get the mass flow rate. Okay? Okay, that is for letter A. Letter A, steam table. So let's try, where do we write? Letter B. Here, we write letter B here. Letter B, we use the Molly diagram. Molly diagram. I will copy paste first the diagram here. Okay, everybody, I copy pasted the diagram. It's quite difficult to do it. I did it by parts, see, part by part. So we now try to solve this using the Molly diagram. The first thing is, so we have the same conditions at the inlet. We try to find the curves and the point that would give us P1 equal to 8,600 kilopascal and T1 equal to 500. Good luck to us. So where do we find it? Uh, 8,600 kilopascal is so this is 8,000 kilopascal. This is 10,000. So it's between those lines. And then temperature 500 is here. Here you can see temperature is here. 500 begins here. So if we trace this curve right here, and so there's a the one I showed you is inside the saturation curve. Inside the saturation curve, what we need is outside. Outside the saturation curve where it intersects the pressure 500 degrees Celsius. So it's here, 500. We trace this line. Let me try to use the. We try to trace this line. Right. Okay. And where it intersects 8,600. So about this point, the middle. No, no, no. So 9,000 is in the middle. So half of that, so it's 9,000. So it's about approximately this point. Let's try yellow or orange. That point, state one. It's not visible, so let's try red. State one. So we now read from the graph the entropy and enthalpy. So first, let's read using a straight line. So it's near 3,400. Um, the value from letter A is 3391. So approximately 339T. So let's write that. Each one 3390 kilojoules per kilogram. And then for the initial entropy, so we use a straight line downwards from that point, from here, this point right here. So let me draw a straight line. Oops. Let me draw a straight line. Not that. Let's zoom. It's approximately, so this is 6.1, point 2, point 3, point 4, point 5, point 6, point 7, 8, 9, 6.7, 6.7. It's the value from, also it's 6.68, so it's near. Can you believe that? Quite just a small difference. Kilojoules per kilogram Kelvin. Okay, so if we assume isentropic expansion S2 prime equal to S1 equal to 6.7, and then find the pressure that is 10 kilopascal, pressure to 10 kilopascal, okay, that has that entropy. So let's find the 10 kilopascal. So here, this is the 10 kilopascal. That point right there. See, it's so this would be our point. That's 10 kilopascal. Now we read the what is the X? So in this diagram, Molly diagram, the labels are for moisture. So this is 1 minus X. Okay, so whatever reading we get from the moisture, we get the 1 minus that value divided by 100 because it's percentage. So then, let's trace the line that, okay, it's about 20. Okay, so this line right here, this is the moisture corresponding to moisture equal to 20. So the moisture, 1 minus x, 1 minus x, 2 prime is equal to 0.20. Therefore, x 2 prime. So this is the isentropic expansion. Why? Entropy is same. So this is zero point 0.8, right? This isentropic expansion from here, state 1, you just have one entropy. So it's a vertical line to this point where the pressure is 10 kilopascal, and that would give you the moisture 20% and x2 prime zero point 0.8. What's the value from letter A? X2 prime is 0.8047. Wow, it's very accurate, almost accurate. Next, we now use that value to solve for delta H. We read delta H. So I will make a straight line. So that line is H2 prime. So H2 prime, it's below 2, 1. So we can estimate the value to be 2, 1. So 2, 1. So in letter A, H2 prime is 2117. So this is a difference of 17. Okay. Now, we can use that to calculate the delta H actual, which is efficiency is delta H S equal to 0.75, right? So, and then we calculate the actual delta H. So this is 0.75 times H2 prime minus H1. So that's two, 200 times 3390. 3390. What's the value? Let me use times 0.75. So using my calculator, hold on for a while. Minus 3390 times 0.75. 967 point negative 967.5 kilojoules per kilogram. So in letter A, that value is 955. So quite near, a bit off, but acceptable. This is a graphical approach. So now that we have delta H, that is H2 actual minus H1, solving for H2, that is delta H plus H1. This is negative 967.5 plus H1 3390. Okay. H2 is 2422.5. So in the letter A, it's 2436. So in using the graphical method, it's 2422 kilojoules per kilogram. Now we oh since we have that already, we trace it 2422 with the moisture to find the moisture. So 2422, and then where it intersects 10 kilopascal, that would give us the outlet, and that would give us the reading for X and the entropy. So this is 2 4, this is in the middle, so 2 this 2 4 in the middle, that would give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 250. So this is 2442. Okay, so this is the actual. Uh, Not yet, not yet. So where it intersects, this is 10. Oh, where is the 10? Kilopascal. Here is 10 kilopascal. So this one. Okay, 10 kilopascal. This is the point. Okay. So this 10 kilopascal. This is the point. And this is H2 actual. Or let me write that. This is so fun. H2 is 2442. That's about 0.5. So therefore, where it intersects with the 10 kilopascal line, which is this one, by this one. Oops, let me try. So difficult to make a line. So from here, we read the moisture. Oh, what's the moisture? It's 6. Moisture is 6. So um, that means 1 minus x2, 1 minus x2 actual is 6%. So 0.06. And therefore, x2 actual is 1 minus that, 0.94. So in letter A, what is x2? 0.9378. So it's quite near. And then we also read S2 actual from the graph. S2 actual. So from this point, uh, what label did I use? Point 1. Or let me label that with a black pen. This is point 1. This is a red pen. This is point 2. So to read the enthalpy, it's 7 point. The S2 actual is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 7.7 kilojoules per kilogram. And what is entropy actual? 7.68. Oh, that's near. So this is your answer. Uh, that one. And then H2 and X2. Those are your answers. Okay, so that is how you do it. How to solve problems for turbines, and the same approach can be used for compressors. They are similar but opposite in direction. Okay, so let's end the video now and continue in the next video.